Welcome to Life and Recovery Podcast. If you find this conversation interesting, you want to share it with somebody, you can find it on any of the streaming services or go to Choice Recovery Path on YouTube to find it there. So, my name is Mark. We have Sam and we have Elise. You guys want to introduce
Hi.
yourselves?
Hi, I'm Sam.
I'm Elise.
Cool. So,
Hi, everyone.
um, generally, just getting going right off the bat this time, as opposed to having a little preliminary conversation. So usually we just talk about what's going on in our own lives. So,
Yeah.
other people might be able to have a similar experience or see what's going on. So, um, what's going on with you, Sam? How's life with you these days? Is there
Yeah,
anything of
life
interest
is,
or consequence?
oh yeah, so life is pretty good. I have this like ongoing like trials and tribulations with work, the classic. I just hit like a year clean and
Nice.
and I got clean at my job, so I still had my job when I got clean. My boss is actually like a close friend of mine from like childhood, so she like intervened me on hours, so I just like went back to like the same old like day job I had. And that's something that like through this year has been tricky because they just like know all of my shit and it's not usual. It feels like a lot of the talk I heard when I was in treatment was like, oh, you need to change everything about your life, but that isn't very I don't think possible for a lot of people to do like every single thing, because I still have to go to like one place where like I did a lot of my old stuff, like my old play place almost, because of course I used it at work. I mean, but yeah, I just have with the interpersonal relationship, I am struggling in my recovery, like with like trusting myself enough to know when it's time to move on from something, like if I've outgrown it or if I'm self-sabotaging. So like in my you know recovery, I'm just kind of like, oh, when am I okay to just like let go and understand that like I'm ready for a change with work. Um,
So let me
because I
ask you a
do love,
question just for context for anybody who doesn't know. So you said trials and tribulations of work without speaking about anything you don't want the rest of the world to know. What do you mean?
right.
What are the
Oh,
trials and
like,
tribulations?
oh, right. I think I just assumed that everyone knows what's going on with me. I just like have like the interpersonal relationships when it becomes like, oh, like, oh, this is a friend and then also my boss. Some
Okay.
of those things become, it's hard to not take things personal. And then I have like, they've always been really supportive of my recovery, but sometimes I do just feel as though I've like hit a glass ceiling with like where I'm at in this job. But then I think like the real trial and tribulation is like trusting myself enough to like change anything about my life out of fear of like, not having stability, especially. And then like, how would I handle something like that clean?
Okay.
Yeah, like change essentially is hard, clean.
What's the
Yeah.
hardest part about it? What's the biggest part about change that you're struggling with?
I think just like uncertainty. I like having like a stable paycheck.
Mhm.
I come from poverty, so it's hard to imagine uh the thought of it changing.
Okay. What do you do?
Yeah. I work in for a clothing brand and I like
Oh, okay.
manage the photo department. Yeah, the
Oh,
creative
nice.
department.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. Are you finding it, so this is the same job you had using that you have currently, correct?
So I'm at the same company, but I'm doing something different.
Did that happen at the same time you transitioned from clean to
Oh
use?
yeah. So I came back from treatment and I started a new position.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
So,
like they definitely have gone above it. Like my more so my issue is just like internal. Like they've definitely gone above and beyond. And like I definitely am someone that still takes things personal. So I definitely think that just like with change, I'm struggling with change right now in my life and in
okay.
my recovery. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Elise? What's going on in your world these days?
That's funny because I also um running a creative department and my friend is my boss and I have to
Yeah, wow. That's
personally
funny.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
when
it's
I make something and Mark goes, that looks weird.
Oh.
oh, you want me to lie?
No, the
I,
truth is always better.
I want certain phrases
The the truth is always better as long as it's
Yeah.
mine.
as long as it's my truth.
As long as it's my truth.
As
That
long
sounds
as it
Oh,
fits,
nice.
oh, good. Good.
That's
as long
great.
as it fits
Healthy.
where
Yeah, I
health.
mean there's a big piece of this is how do you start to create a new dynamic when I've lived so
Yeah.
long in another role essentially.
Yeah.
Like I always start thinking about my life in recovery compared to my life using as like two different plays, like a Broadway play,
Mm.
and the roles I fulfilled when I was using compared to the role I'm fulfilling now, and how we're just such dramatically different creatures essentially.
Yeah, I feel dramatically different. And it's hard to like, it's also complicated. I kind of feel like I have like a dramatic story with work because like my one of my biggest using buddies works with me.
Mhm.
So I had to like cut the cord on that relationship.
Mhm.
And they've been like obviously been very supportive about that, but it is just like a weird vibe, you know what I mean, to be in.
Yeah, you mean like how they react around each other when you're not, when the old
Yeah,
dynamics don't work?
exactly. Yeah. So we're not as close work. Like we work in different departments now. That's kind of part of the reason why I've switched over,
Yeah.
as well as just like, like going into a creative field just makes more sense for me. But that was just like an interesting, you know, dynamic and like it still is.
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
going best for you? So you've been clean for a year. So
Yeah.
what's going best?
Probably just like my self-esteem, which is nice. Like even though I still have trouble like trusting like things would change when it comes to like, finances and stuff, just because I feel like that will just be something I work towards a lot, something I have to dedicate time to. I still have like a higher self-esteem and like a self-worth. So that's like I feel very proud of myself, like all I've
Okay.
accomplished.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels good just to like I know I had my first like real like oh my god I want to relapse moment like a few weeks ago, and I just like really handled it and like talked to my sponsor, talked to addicts, you know what I mean? So it was just really like gratifying and humbling to like be on the other side of like a day like that, and to just know that it's like possible to do to like feel those feelings and not like give into like something like that.
So
Yeah.
question, what was going on in your life that made you want to use?
I think just like I was like just feeling like underappreciated at work almost. And then I
Okay.
just felt just like very lonely. I am like a trans man. So just like things in the world about being trans, it just feels like a lot of little things like happened in my mind, kind of went like, I kind of just felt really depressed and just
Right.
like, yeah, just
Isolated,
kind of like, just like,
alone.
yeah, just like a bunch of like little things add up to one big thing. I just feel like it's overwhelming. You know, I
And
feel
one
like
of them.
sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Keep going. Sorry.
No, it's like I am like medicated for mental illness, but sometimes I feel like there's still some days where I'm like,
Yeah. Well, and
yeah,
it's easy to, I mean, I'm asking that for a really specific reason because, like, I talk to people a lot and I'll ask them all the time, what was going on in your life that made you want to use? And it's always the same things. Oh, I was isolated. I felt alone. I was depressed.
yeah.
I had anxiety. I had there was shame about this situation or guilt or I lost somebody or some sort
It's
of.
always like what it feels like now that I'm like clean and was able to like kind of like step back and be like and not give and not and like practice the self restraint and like not giving in. It's kind of just like wow, I really like self medicated a lot of just like just not having the words or the like tools to communicate how I feel and handle that
Yeah.
or want to. Like it's crazy how like now I'm like it almost feels like it would be like it's truly a choice now for me to just like go out. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I do have so many resources like in my life and like in relationships that I have that I know I can trust and be like, this is going on with me. When before I definitely was just like, I need to just be high and just kind of like exist.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so many people. I mean, it's rare that I ever ask anybody what was going on in your life that made you want to use when people relapse. Is that somebody comes up and says, "Oh, I just thought vodka was amazing," or
Right. Yes.
no, it's just the only thing I really thought would be the best thing to do. It
Yeah.
never, or like meth was the solution. That's the attempt to find a solution, but it's
Yeah.
never about the substance. It's always a way to deal with something, and I always I try to keep that very clear in my mind because it's a very big difference in what I'm doing and who I am.
Right.
That I'm trying to solve some very human problem, some very human condition with something very external, you know. And that's a little bit of a yeah. It's always been helpful to me to reframe that idea. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it interesting, Sam, that you were like in both ways you were like change is scary, not knowing like where to go, but then at the same time you just talked about like doing something totally different than you would have done in the past. Like that
Right.
was a big change for you to the way that you responded, and I feel like that's so important is to remember that like not all things that are scary are gonna end up badly. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's a new thing a lot of times in recovery because like things that were scary always ended up badly before. And
Hmm.
so like I feel like that helps, at least it helps me whenever I have a change coming up that I feel like needs to be made, is to be like, okay, you've walked through things that were scary before that had a good outcome, you know?
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me because it's just like, yeah, I feel like when it comes, I don't know like why it's just certain things that touch certain parts of like my past and my life that like I use drugs to like rehabilitate almost, or I thought I did, was just kind of, it's just still kind of a difficult thing. But I like, I have these two sides of me that's like, change is really scary. I don't know what to do. And then the other side is that like, I just know that like, I just need to like, let go, let God, and just kind of like do what feels right. Cause I'll never be ready for anything. You know what I mean? But I really like that. That's like interesting thing to think about. Like, it's like what we all expect the worst always,
Yeah.
instead of like, usually things do work out the way they're supposed to.
Yeah. I feel like only recently have I been able to like almost like be aware enough to play that tape, the new tape
Mm,
recently, where like even just like today, like okay, so DMV calls me
mm-hmm.
and like I see a missed call from DMV and I'm like, oh my God, something's wrong. I did something wrong. I'm not gonna get my car registered. They're gonna blah blah blah. And then I was like, okay, literally like why does it have to go that way, Elise,
Right.
in your head? And then I eventually like they called back and they're like, oh, you just need to sign this thing we forgot to have you sign. And I'm like, that's so crazy. Like
Yeah.
that old tape of like, I'm a fuck up, I'm a criminal, I'm always doing something bad
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
still like crop up sometimes. But I'm like, I feel like only recently I've been getting better at like, I notice when that comes up right away. And then I'm like, no, we're we're not going down that path because like, why? What's the point?
Right. It is like it's like also so exhausting to do that.
It is.
Yeah. But it's also not needed. Like we don't, like someone, an addict once told me, it's like we don't need to like protect ourselves in that way anymore. Or like, where it's like we don't need to like have all, because we know we haven't done anything, so we don't need to like protect ourselves by like overthinking ourselves out of, terrible situations, because there's just like no reason to do that.
So I wonder why we go straight to worst case scenario. I mean, I was sitting listening to both of you, and it's like one little thing happens, like straight to doom,
Right.
straight to
Because I
the
think
worst case
that's just like,
possible scenario of
I
what could
think that's just
happen.
like, yeah, it's just like, that's like what we know, like, so well. Like, I don't know. Like, it's like, because I honestly feel like part of like being an addict is like being addicted to just like being like drama almost. Like, just like, or like, just like, not drama, but like, just like chaos. Like, I am not comfortable without the chaos. Like, I need something to like be scared of in order to like feel alive and real. Like,
Feel
even though,
normal.
yeah, to feel normal, because like my life, has been chaos. Like, a lot of our lives have been like, like our parents are addicts, we come from like a traumatic environment in some way. So I just feel like that is like what I know. So when things are calm, I'm like, this must be like a mirage. Like, this, I have to be afraid of this because like won't be forever. And I'm like, well, even if it is good, it's nothing is good forever. It's like things have to be like hard sometimes because that's like life as well. So it's like but good.
Yeah, we have these books we use in groups, and there's one called Our Normal is Not Normal.
Right.
And just like, we get so ingrained and so used to a level of abnormalcy that just, it literally becomes our normal. And when like the day in the life of a using addict is just nothing but constant drama and chaos and
Right.
craziness.
It's like always, it's like crazy like what I thought about then, and like how I like, and there's still days where I think the same but about different stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like, now some days it's like food, some days it's like buying things I don't need. I'm still like, I'm still an addict in ways that like it just will always, it's like a disease that like has no
Yeah, there's
cure.
tons of ways
So
to use without dope.
exactly, like yeah, so I'm constantly like checking myself for that, but like some days it's better to like give in to like something like that than it is to use. So
Are you finding your life boring now? Is there days you're like, bleh?
yeah, I definitely find my life boring. I definitely find my life boring. I definitely like, and more so in the beginning, I had the fear of like, I had that like identity crisis. Like, if I'm not using, then like who am I as a person? Like, drugs were everything to me. I feel like everyone knew me as like someone that was high. Like, I just felt like that was my whole identity. And so like I thought that like all my creativity would be gone. I was like, who am I gonna be? Like, that just scared me. I still don't know like what I like, what I'm gonna do, who I am. But like, it's obviously I'm just still, there are still parts of me that like were there. So I still, I'm still getting to know who I am and like what I like to do. And I like still have creativity. But yeah, my life feels more boring, and I'm feeling like I'm going through that change of like relationships outside of the program, where it's like, okay, I can see who I was just hanging out with because it was convenient, easy for like my using, and like people who like, can't deal with seeing like looking at me like a mirror, that like don't want to like be around me anymore. Almost like a lot of my relationships outside of the program have changed, and obviously like I've made like, like amazing friends inside the program, and like that has changed my whole life and worldview, and like I feel so supported in like authentic relationships and like really understood. So, it's like interesting to see those changes,
Yeah.
which are the, welcome.
So, I had a question. Is it just that life has actually just gotten boring, or is it just free of a lot of drama and chaos and
I feel like it's like
calm?
free from drama and chaos,
Yeah.
but to me sometimes I'm like, that's boring.
Yeah. I mean,
But it's
you ever
good
find
because it's
yourself
like,
trying to go stir the pot up somewhere just for fun?
oh my god, no, because I'm
Looking
also
for shady
tired.
things to
Because
do,
I'm
or create a dumpster fire in your life somewhere for no reason?
right. Like, that's where I'm at with like myself. I'm like, that's why I kind of like I question myself with like, like moving on to a new like career environment, because it's like, oh, am I self-sabotaging something that's good in my life just because I feel like just because I feel like nothing is like exciting,
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
I just have like internal questions that like I ask myself all the time, like that.
Yeah.
I feel that. And that's like it's hard, like you're saying, like you're like building trust with yourself. Like that's part of like building it. Like
Yeah.
how do you trust something you're still building? Like, I think
Right.
that's hard because like, and I think chaos is change, but it's like change due to like survival. But
Right. Survival. Yeah. Hmm.
and like when we don't have to be in survival anymore, it's like what is change? You know, like can I
Yeah.
can I make a change that's positive even if where I am is okay? Like that's a
Mm,
weird concept, I think.
yeah. Yeah. Because if I feel like better than I've ever felt, why would I change? But it's like it could only get better. Because sometimes, I don't know.
Because
Lost
it's
my train of
new and
thought.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Sometimes, it's like that old shitty pair of jeans that everybody tells you to throw away, but you're like, but they're so comfy. And you
Right.
remember because they're so what I know.
Right.
The old life is very much like that. It's just very much, you know, that just yeah, a little comfort. I mean, the uncomfortable that I know is better than the uncomfortableness of the unknown.
Right.
It seems to be a little bit easier. So, what promoted the change from one, your career change? What promoted it from one thing to another? Was it?
What do you mean? What do you
Well,
mean?
you just said that when you were using you fulfilled a very specific role
Uh,
at work, and then when you got clean, you have a whole new role. Is it just because you were gone for a while and that was the one that was open, or?
no. So like, I work for the clothing brand, and like before I went into treatment, I was just like helping around like in the warehouse, and then like the warehouse is like where my using friend is, and because I think my boss just always knew that like I was a hard worker and like trusted me even despite all of my using and lying and like stuff at work, that she like trusted me enough to like help run the photo department, which is like an amazing opportunity. That's why I'm also kind of like,
Nice.
yeah, it's nice. It's like there's like nothing to complain about. That's how it feels. That's why I'm so conflicted. You know what I mean? Because there's like, but sometimes I just feel like it is like a me problem where I'm just kind of like, oh, like I have a hard time with like it's like a husband and wife team that own the company, and my direct boss is not like my friend, it's like her husband,
Mhm.
and we just don't communicate in the same way. So that's something I kind of like get like really fed up with, and I want to change things.
Mhm.
um but kind of I feel like wherever I go, a boss will be hard to deal with because like many of us, I don't really like authority. It's
Yeah.
hard. Yeah.
Fanatic. Nobody likes anybody telling us what to do.
Right. I'm
What's
like,
good for us.
yeah. So I'm just kind of like, I know that I have a good gig. I know that I have a lot of autonomy despite, but sometimes the interpersonal relationship, that's like to me, it's like, but I know it's like all me. Like it's like they probably go home and don't think about that stuff. So it's like, can I deal with it? Probably.
Where do you aspire to be a year down the road in your recovery at 2 years?
Uh, I'd
About
like
that
to be
far ahead?
yeah, I'd like to be like making like more art, just for myself. Cause like right now I like try and monetize everything I do. So I think I'd just like to, be able to like have some time and like have a art studio where I go and like make art and like, have more of a like have a therapist, like a better therapist.
Do you struggle with
Um,
creativity now that you're clean?
Not really.
Okay.
I feel creative still and I'm like creating, but like I like don't have a lot of space. So I feel like I'd want to like, work hard with like getting like my financial situation like in order and being able to afford like another space to kind of create.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of things I just kind of like don't even like to, it's like hard to like these days I don't like to plan that far ahead
Mhm.
or
Okay.
no, like try and like I like to try and just like what will happen kind of thing. But I want that to be like an intention.
What's been the biggest struggle in your recovery for this? When you talked about what was going great, what's been your biggest struggle in your recovery so far in a year?
Hmm. Probably hmm. Today my biggest struggle is like feeling like left out of certain things from my past, like some of my relationships that I felt close to, is that like now I'm not like included in a lot of things. It is for the best, probably, because like if they're not gonna still include me in like, like plans and stuff, because like they think that I can't like be around drugs and alcohol, which is true, I can't, so it's like that's just like a hard thing to come to terms with, that like uh things are changing in my like personal life, like my relationships in that way. That's like a struggle. And like obviously like I still struggle with like not doing drugs.
Mhm.
Yeah, like
Okay.
the thought, sometimes the thought of like never doing drugs again is like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But if I future trip like that, like that's like why one day at a time is so important to me, because it's like if it's just today, then it's like okay.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
I mean,
do
the
obviously
rest of
plan
today,
on.
no problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
And also something that like I didn't really prepare for was like how many using dreams I would have. I have using dreams all the time, and I wake up kind of like stressed out,
Yeah.
which is like I feel scared that I like relapse, and then I'm like, oh my god, I only relapsed by smoking weed like in my dream. I'm like, that's so late. And then I was like, oh, okay, well at least I didn't.
I'm gonna relapse and get my money's worth out of it. That's
That
funny.
right. That's
It's funny. I was listening to a guy who's a neurobiologist, and he was talking about, dreams are our mind's way of like uncoupling our current situation from our past life.
Mm,
And they were talking about the reality of like, he was talking about people who know another language. Do you speak another language?
no,
Okay. But like people that know another language, when you know it really, really well, you dream in it.
that's cool.
And the reality is like we know the language of using so well that we actually dream in it.
Oh
And
wow.
it's like your brain trying to reconcile your past with your present and how it's kind of uncoupling the life you were living from the one you're living now. It's been
Wow.
weird for me because I used to have a lot of using dreams, and now they've transitioned to a place where like everybody around me is high, but I'm not. And I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you
Oh,
guys? It's
right.
been kind of a weird transition of just
Oh
like
my god, yeah.
like that.
Even today someone was talking about like at lunch at work, someone was talking about like getting high before playing tennis. And I was like, oh, that sounds so like exhausting. There's still times there's like I do have this time where I'm just like, oh my god, I couldn't imagine. I would have to be like so like it'd be so tiring to be high and play tennis. I would not do that. I would do something way, way less.
It's hard to be
I
high
would like
doing anything.
I know I would just like pick at my nails for hours, not play tennis. So
That's funny. So if it's a question that I used to get asked a lot, and the question was like, if you could have the life you wanted, what's standing in your way?
that's a good question. I think my ability to like let go of just like, looking dumb and doing what I needed to do, and like not really just like motivation. I need more motivation for sure.
Looking
I
dumb,
think
not doing what does that mean? Say more.
like
What does that mean to you?
like I think it means to me is that like putting myself out there more and just like trying to like, because like ultimately what I would love to do is like I don't want a job. The life I want is like I am an artist and I like, make money in that way. No matter, I don't know what kind of artist that is right now, but like it would have to mean that like in like today's society, I have to like be really active on Instagram, and like I don't like posting. You know what I mean? Like I don't like having an online presence. I'm kind of private. You know what I mean? So it's just stuff like that where it's like I guess like not really the fear of looking dumb, but it's just like the fact that I'd have to like put more of like myself into the public eye, that I don't like doing that.
Be your own
But
publicist.
I'm sorry.
Be your own publicist. I mean, basically
Right,
putting
yeah.
yourself out there. What kind of art do you
Yeah.
do?
I'm a painter and I like make furniture.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's like, and I like have like, I do shows, like I sell art, but it's like definitely not substantial to like live in LA as of right now. I think like the life I want is like the confidence to like start freelance in that way and like be my own boss. But, I am scared of like not having money because I love to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's the toughest part of about like, well, I hear like there's like pros and cons wherever you go.
Right,
And it's like which set of pros and cons do I want to put up with, you know? Because it's
right,
freedom. Okay, do I want more freedom and more like, power of choice? But that also comes with like, um, maybe the finances are gonna go up and down, or there's no like security blanket because it's
yeah,
all up to like me and the market and like. And then there's like, or do I want comfort? But then like I'm staying in the box. Because I always go like I'm always, well, I guess this is like an aspect of addiction, but I always want to like I love change and I'm always trying to change. And like that's actually my problem. Is like every 2 years, it doesn't matter what it is, I'm always trying to change something. And like for me, I have to be like, okay, what is like the reality? Like what pros and cons are you switching?
mm,
Like even when I just moved, it was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna have my little garden area anymore. But then I'm like, yeah, but you're also paying a big old chunk less
yeah,
money. And so because like what was I doing? Was I enjoying the garden area? No, I was lying in bed thinking about how broke I was and depression napping.
yeah,
So I was like, okay, fuck the garden. I want to feel more financially okay. But I feel like that's like doing that is hard because as an addict, like I want to fantasize everything. Like I can
right,
like fantasize the future, like it's gonna be perfect instead of just being like, okay, do I want to like trade what I have for what would happen there, you know?
right. Because I'm like also the addict where it's like I like need to. I'm like, oh, I'll just move away and then start completely
Yeah.
over. And that's something that I love to do. Because that's how I moved to California, essentially. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I was just like, oh, well, now I can just move to California and just have my new job. And then, like, everything will be perfect. I can just start over. And
Yeah.
then now I'm like, okay, now I'm just going to, like, move back to Chicago. Like, that's something I think about all the time, moving back to Chicago, just starting over. Fuck you to everything here. And I'm just like, why? That's like, I'm making myself uncomfortable. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't really want to do those things. I just, like, want change. But, like, hmm, it's like I want change and I don't. I'm like, I'm in that limbo. It's
Well,
not
Mhm.
making sense.
people that try to make a geographic move to stop using,
Yeah,
problem is you take the person you're using with you.
exactly. Yeah, that's like kind of the thing.
And,
Someone said that to me recently, and I was like, okay,
yeah, I mean it's you're taking the last person you used with you. Just
right. I'm
just
like,
being yourself, but you know,
Yeah, and
yeah,
even in recovery, like I'm still taking all my thoughts and feelings and experiences with me. Like even if I'm starting new in recovery somewhere else, like am I running from like I don't know how to be present with myself? I'm like I don't know how to be content in the moment? Or is there really something like that needs to be addressed that's currently happening that I'm ready to grow from?
right, right,
well, and how can you get the best of both? I mean, you talked about wanting to do art and needing to make money, you know. I was trying to think out how do you get all of the things you want? I mean, maybe it just means that what I do for money is not what I do for enjoyment.
right. I think it's just like about like maybe hustling more and then like creating more. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, I know what to do. It's just like about like putting it into motion. You know what I mean?
Letting your hustle motivate your creativity or
Exactly. Yeah.
accelerate it.
But
Yeah.
but my bed is so nice and it's
I know. I'm
and the
like,
show is
couch, dog.
hungry.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I do.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, all these things sound amazing. All these fantasies in my head, like you said, sound so good. Um, but I'm also like, I love to lay down and look at my phone. Like I love to be a spectator on the phone. I'm not like a poster.
Mm. Yeah, what's that quote that's like, it's something like there are two people in this world, the people who like
Oh,
watch the show and the people who are in the show or something like that.
right.
And I always get so
Yeah.
resentful when I hear that because I'm like, I want to be in the show,
I
but
know.
like
I'm
I
like,
don't act like
I'm
it sometimes.
I feel like I'm truly both. It depends on how I feel that day.
Hmm. Yeah, I think both are important.
Yeah.
Two
I need to have both.
two different perspectives. Like
Right.
like you were saying, how can you have both? Which I feel like is creativity. Like that's creativity in action. Is like
Right.
how like how do I move past the obstacles or the boxes I've created for myself in my head?
Yeah.
Like if I do this, I must do that. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like when I look back on my journey, I'm like all the great places I've arrived, I could not have imagined. I did not know existed until I got there, you know?
Yeah.
I just had to like do, you know, take care of today and tomorrow I take care of tomorrow. Like,
Well, and it's how I always try to apply my old using life to today. It's like when I wanted to do something then, if it had something to do with picking up or using, literally nothing stopped me. No
That's
matter
what I'm saying.
what I did, how I did it, it was gonna get done 100% of the time. And it's like, great, if I can do it for that, why can't I do it for the things that I did now? And
Right.
basically
That's
a
a good
story in my
point.
head that I've created. So why not create a different story? Rather than what I'm
That's
trying
like
to
a good
do.
point. I've always got high.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. I always
Yeah.
made that happen 100% of the time.
Yeah. I was never without. That's crazy. Okay. Yeah, good point. Touche.
If you can be without, yeah, if you can never be
Yeah.
without that, then how to create the creativity and the resilience and the drive and everything we had for that,
Yeah.
keep the skill sets and just, reframe them back to what we're trying to accomplish now. So,
yeah, because it's like the difference is like we have all those emotions and thoughts in the way that we're present with now. But if we can figure out how to like navigate those, I mean, that's when we really like figure out how to get there, because it's the feelings that get in the way. Like for me,
Yeah, me too.
whether it's like, oh, this looks easier. This is the easier, softer way. Like, oh, but we could eat and sit here. And I feel like in my recovery journey, I've done enough of like sitting, watching something, eating, where I'm like I notice the difference. Like, let's say I do that one night, and like the next night, I'm like, okay, you're gonna do some step work before bed. And I'm like a little kid with myself. I'm like, I don't want to fucking do it, and then
Right.
I write a little bit and then like I watch a show and I'm like, I feel so much better. Like I feel so like that was my reward or something. Like I feel more whole, like I did what I was supposed to do and can enjoy my time. But it's just like little things like that that I notice, I think that are really helpful to me. It's like, okay, like as an addict, I'm always trying to get the reward without the work. But it's almost it almost cancels out the reward. It's not even like worth anything.
Right.
what's been the most rewarding thing to you so far?
Who?
Are you talking?
I don't
Yeah.
care, either of you.
Sam first.
Oh, me? Hmm.
What's been the most rewarding aspect of your recovery to date?
Just like I feel like being alive for real. Because I was so suicidal when I went into treatment. Like, oh my God, like wasn't gonna make it to like where I am now. So just like I am just so like rewarding is just like to be alive and to be like okay with being alive even when it's hard. Cause like that's something that was like, I had to get like my meds right. I had to get like, withdrawal going. So like just like being here now and being like, oh my God, I cannot like looking back at like my bottom and being like, I almost didn't make it is wild. So just that is rewarding to me.
Okay. How about for you, Elise?
Hmm.
What has been the most rewarding thing to date in your recovery?
I think applying courage when there's fear in my life. Um it doesn't have to like be a big old thing. It's usually like a series of small things. But like I like the way that Sam was looking back. Like I think the small steps add up, and then when you look back, it's even just with something like dance, like I get to like hang out with world famous dancers now in California. And like when I started in recovery, I was just like, I would cry my way home after walking into a beginner dance class, but it was like a series of tiny steps, but that in all areas of my life. I think just doing a little courageous thing when I feel fear is the most impactful thing.
I like it.
That's awesome.
What about you, Mark?
Yeah, even asked you.
It's been the most rewarding thing. Probably a healthy relationship, as weird as it is, has actually been really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
that sounds amazing.
Healthy relationships with, you know, my family has been awesome. My partner, myself being a big piece of that. You know,
Yeah,
I used forever because I didn't like me. You know, it's come up a couple of times in the podcast recently, but a love affair with yourself. Really trying to cultivate, happiness from within a little bit, or at least I don't know, like happiness is kind of fleeting, but fulfillment,
yeah,
more abundance, more yeah, looking at things that way, I think have been a lot more helpful. So,
Yeah,
love that.
so
contentment.
yeah, contentment, fulfillment,
Yeah,
and a little bit more of an abundant life.
Yeah, I'm
a
trying
little
to like.
bit.
I think that's another part of my like my change is like I'm trying to change my mindset into like an abundance mindset rather than a scarcity mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
still kind of fall into the scarcity mindset a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you can take either, so you may as well take the one that works for you,
right,
which hopefully is the one that's more optimistic and abundant. So,
right. That's the one I want. So
for sure.
Yeah, it's wild how it's already there. It's really up
yeah,
to us to look at it and
right.
keep looking at it again and again.
And I'm just like, okay.
Well, it's effort.
But
Oh, I know. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, I'm so good at complaining.
That's funny. That's hilarious. Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to chat today.
Yeah, thanks for having me today. So fun. So nice to talk and nice to meet you. And
Yeah,
Elise, nice to talk to you as always.
yeah, thanks
great.
for coming on and joining us, Sam.
Of course.
Love that.
Thank you. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
appreciate it. Well, if this was
Okay.
valuable to anybody else, please feel free to find us on YouTube at choicerecoverypath.com and all the streaming platforms. And, thank you guys so much for coming on today.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
All information and other content supplied or communicated in or through this video is for general informational purposes only and does not or nor is intended to constitute legal or medical advice. Any viewer of this video should contact his or her own attorney, doctor, or other applicable advisor or practitioner to obtain legal, medical, or other applicable advice with respect to the accuracy, reliability, or potential application to such viewer of any matter discussed or portrayed in this video. Please do not act or refrain from acting in any way based on any information or content supplied or communicated in or through this video. The views expressed during this video are those of the individual presenters only and not those of Choice Recovery Path LLC or any of its customers, suppliers, or affiliates. Any liability with respect to actions taken or not taken by any viewer based on any information or content supplied or communicated in or through such video is hereby expressly disclaimed. All such information or content is expressly provided as is and free of any representation or warranty of any kind.